Oh, I found my headphones right as the countdown was ending.
You lucky SOB, you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, this week I am killing it. I've got some amazing NFTs I've scooped up. We actually bought lotto tickets the other day. Actually, we bought lotto tickets on 2 different days. The first day, we won a couple of free tickets. So naturally, well, not free tickets, but we won the price of the tickets back. So,
Say,
and
these
then
scratch offs? Are you doing scratchers now?
no, we don't do scratchers. We do.
When you say lotto, what does lotto mean to you? Because we're Florida, so there's the Florida Lotto, which is the OG for us, but that's been reduced. That's like starts at $1 million, and it got pretty
Yeah,
high for Florida Lotto. It got up to like 25 mil or something like that, and someone just won that. You have really good odds comparatively, at least compared to Powerball and Mega Millions, to win that.
yeah. I haven't done the math. I should like look
I
at.
have. I've done like at what dollar amount of the jackpot does it actually pay? Like, are you in the money based on the expected value, the probability of winning after tax and everything?
Yeah, and I'm normally that guy. Like I like, I don't care about the big prize. I want the sure thing. But we normally play like Powerball, Mega Millions, and I think those are both national. I like cash for life. I like the idea of like a residual. You can't get too crazy with cash for life. They give you like, I don't know, $1,000 a week for the rest of your life, or something like that. So it's like even if you
Is
go
that a scratch
crazy for a
off?
few months, no, it's a. Well, I don't do scratch offs. So whatever the normal ticket printing number
Uh,
ball drawing thing. That's what we do. Then the other one is Fantasy Five, and we'll do that one every once in a while. But the three main ones we always do are Mega Million, Powerball. I always push for the cash for life. I'm not a big fan of that, but like I said, like you could have like, let's say you got into like a drug problem or something. You're like, oh, I won the lottery. I'm going to go on a bender. You could have a bad 3 months, and you can't burn all your money because it's coming to you. Although I bet you can probably get a settlement, and that'd be a bad decision to go through. Then
yeah.
you would
Well, I mean, by default, even the more general lottery ones like Mega Million or Powerball, those are based on an annuity, right? So like that's over a
yeah,
30-year time period. So like by default, that's what they are.
yeah, that is true. It's just I don't know. I fall for the cash
The
for
marketing.
life kind of gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like here's the
It's
same thing.
expensive.
We'll just be more transparent about how it actually gets paid out. There are, by the way, some interesting lotto NFT projects that I've been researching. One of them was on Solana, I know, and I haven't gotten into Solana stuff. I know you've got some Solana stuff, but one's like lottery otters or lotter otters or something like that. Cute little
Okay.
characters. So just making that segue into.
Well, that's good because I've been looking for good Solana projects. So the only one I'm in is the Shrimp Society, which is that Miami-based one,
Yes, and I've
and
been
it's
interested
cool.
in getting into that. I like the IRL components, especially Miami's a hub for crypto. What have you guys done so
Yeah.
far with that? And tell me a bit more, because all I know is what you told me about. I started looking at them, and I'm waiting for the price to go down, but I stopped looking a little
Yeah.
while ago.
Yeah, dude. So to be honest, I've been MIA from MIA, right? So I haven't actually been there to get all the in real life benefits out of it. But they do meet up very regularly. So like in their Discord, they're always talking about, I think it's a bi-weekly meetup. They'll go to a restaurant or bar in the area and just sort of shoot the crap and get everyone on the same page. It's a community that's intended for people in the space. So like tech people, developers, product managers, artists, creatives, marketers, and it's intended just to get them all together. And that's just the token to enter that club. It's a low price, which is awesome, right? Like
Yeah, it's like one
Solana's,
soul approximately.
yeah, it's a mint, which is around $100, sort of oscillates below and above, and so it's really low barrier. There's no gas fee, so that's like the true cost.
Yeah.
And so it's just a little token. So it's not one that people are like worried about the floor or anything like that. It's a true utility social club type element. And that's what I like about it. I haven't got a chance though, like I said, to really reap the rewards, but I'm excited to once I'm down there.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna pick one up in the next probably couple of weeks and just try to hit some IRL events. And I think everyone knows, or everyone should know, Soul, a big thing that's came out a little while ago, is the fact that Solana projects are now going to be accepted on OpenSea. So I think that's a pretty good investment. Everyone's always griping about the gas fees. There's pros and cons. I've heard some interesting arguments why the gas fees are good. It's a deterrent against like spammy kind of stuff. because you obviously don't want to do an airdrop that costs you a bunch of money in gas. So the free and cheap platforms or protocols, whatever, chains are obviously more prone to you potentially getting spammed, and with you're not just getting a free NFT. Sometimes those spam things could be malicious and clean out your wallet if you don't know what you're doing. But I still think that Solana projects, Polygon projects are a good investment to make, because, and you could always bridge them too. But I've noticed it doesn't seem like NFTs do well once they're bridged onto something else. Like there's not a lot of sellers on that other, or buyers on that other market, at least not yet. And that might also be a project awareness thing. If you're a project on Solana, maybe all the people who are buying it and know about it and care about it are already on Solana, and that's the only thing they mess with.
You know, this kind of reminds me of the conversation that we had with Blake Ian, right?
Yeah.
Who did That's Money Money. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And it sort of revolves around what these NFT projects are intended to be and sort of what they have become, right? Because like you and I are in a few of these, and you start to get obsessed with that floor and the transaction of it, and if it's taken off, the speed of it's taken off, and that just becomes the sole focus for a lot of these projects.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because like that's kind of what has happened, and that's the hype, and so everyone wants to come over to this space and see this crazy hockey stick and these things shoot up in value overnight. And then when they don't, they get a little frustrated because they think there's something else out there that will, and they just want to get that money out and put it in because you only have a finite amount of whatever it is that the transaction costs, the capital to buy these things. And so they're impatient. If it's not moving, they pull it out. But like this utility was one of the original catalysts that helped things take off. The sense of community was one of the original catalysts that helped these things take off. That supportive nature and helping each other out and learning and growing together, and that positivity was like one of the big components that helped these things take off. And it's just going away. It's sad. And you and I are also kind of have succumbed to it, but I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about wanting to focus on a little bit more and put that in check and make sure that I sort of see the long-term benefits and utility from a lot of these projects. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think whenever there's opportunity to make money, you're going to have, the grifters come in and the people who want to pump and dump, and that's what they're looking for. The way I try to look at it now is, now I'm trying to invest in projects, and I say try, and I want to emphasize that I am trying to invest in projects that I would be okay holding, like stuff that I really believe in, stuff that like I'm looking at a 5-year horizon, a 10-year horizon, or something like that, a utilitarian purpose behind it, being able to have access. Because the way I look at it is like, all right, let's say I was going to a concert and I paid $100 to go to the concert, and I was happy with that, and then I find some guy scalping tickets in the parking lot for $50 or something like that. He's like just dropping some last minute tickets. I'd be like, whatever, but I'm still getting what I want. I was happy buying these tickets to see Dave Matthews or whatever at this price. I'm good with it. Where it's a really frustrating thing is, especially for those people who are looking at an investment, that I wouldn't even say it's an investment. They're looking for a pump and dump. They're looking to flip it. They want a 10X. They want a moon Lambo. And those people seeking those things will also create that drop in the floor price, because when they see that it's not hockey sticking, that was a weird, when it's not going to do a hockey stick, that's when they start dropping their stuff, bailing, getting what they can at the current floor, which drives the floor down more usually. And it's a temporary thing. But if it's a project that if it's something that you're thinking 5-year horizons on, you're okay with that. In fact, there's some projects that, like the Holy Ones, number one, in the Discord, we never discuss the floor price. We just don't care. Everyone there is, they didn't do a lot of marketing. It's not been hyped up by a bunch of influencers. So the people who are there believe in the project, and they're very knowledgeable about it. It's either new people or very knowledgeable people, and the new people quickly become very knowledgeable. And I love that the floor price drops, because that allows me to get more Holy Ones at a cheaper price. Not to say that the minting price isn't reasonable, and even above that, because I think the value, the long-term value of the project is amazing. But if I'm able to get it even cheaper, I'm not going to complain, because I'm not trying to get paid today or tomorrow. I'm looking to hold this stuff. But yeah, I've seen, I mean, we know that one project that we mentioned actually in the last episode that we recorded one-on-one that is posting tomorrow. I don't know if we're going to name that project yet, but you and I have been discussing that one. That's an example of one where the floor just bottomed out because people didn't see their ability to flip it and make money. And that I mean, that was,
I mean, yeah. So like that project was, I think, intended to do that, right? So I think it's also like what is the design of to begin with, and who are the people that they're attracting into that community.
yeah.
So you have some projects that seem hypey, that seem like their intent is to speculate on and hopefully see some sort of appreciation. And
We've got art that looks like apes, and it can be your PFP, so you can flex on your friends with something that looks like a bored ape. And it's like, what else? Like, nope, that's it. And that worked. That worked for a while. But now that you're getting more educated consumers in there who have been burnt.
But like, yeah, but even like you said, this like long-term focus on the value, it's such a weird new space that I think it's good to have that mindset, but I don't even know how you can determine what is long-term value and what these things are going to look like in 5-10 years. Like, it's tough to even know what they're going to look like in a year.
Oh, and bringing stuff to fruition. You might have, even with a good team and a really enticing roadmap, still executing on that stuff there's a lot of companies out there, and that's how these have to be looked at. These are companies. They have maybe not all the overhead of opening up a restaurant and paying rent and buying kitchen supplies and a staff and everything.
No, they're startups.
They're startups.
Yeah, these are technology startups.
It's a high failure rate.
It's a high failure rate. And then also, even if you have that long-term, and this is, I don't know, maybe where my thinking was going with this, even if individuals have that long-term perspective and they're okay with things sort of not taking off right away, if others don't, so if others don't have that same perspective and they get in this project early on with the intentions that it's going to just take off right away, and they're fickle about it and they don't have that long-term hold mentality, and they start dumping it creates this negative, or it can create this negative pressure on that project. Can result in a loss of momentum and a really big pressure on preventing them from executing to the level that they would have otherwise. So I say that because I'm just trying to think through all these ways to basically get the right people involved early on projects. Like, you and I just sort of think about how we would do projects differently, how we'd start them. We learn from some of these things we're involved in, and we may or may not have the intention to actually do something with that, but it's just all a thought process for us, a thought experiment for us to see what's working, what are some opportunities out there. And the more we're in it, the more we learn what works, what doesn't, what opportunities exist. And I think that's a big one, is just making sure you get the right people early on and you educate them the right way. And you set the standard for what you think success looks like with that project.
And the expectations, because people, like, they want to buy something today that they can sell for 2 or 3 times its price tomorrow. And when that doesn't happen, like I said before, that's when you'll have some of the grifters bail, eat up drop your floor down, and it eats up the morale of the rest of the team, who's like, maybe they're not thinking of flipping it tomorrow, but now they're going to hesitate on, like, well, if the value of this thing's going down and now I'm already negative in it, maybe I should bail with these other grifters while I can.
Yeah. So I think that's why it matters, because then you have those people that essentially took the spot from maybe someone else that would have appreciated and held it early on. So they got in early at the mint. They got all those benefits and they're gone. And that's prevented someone else from being able to take that spot and get it early and hold on to it. So I don't know. I've been thinking about just ways to prevent that. Like, what's the best way to set it up from the very beginning to ensure that you get really people you want in your community as the basis of your community, rather than just somebody happened to be the first person to scam their way into a whitelist spot or something like that.
Yeah, there's a million different ways to skin the cat on this, and there's so many shifting variables that will affect the value of other factors. For instance, like there could be an argument in some instances it would work to give out free NFTs for the right person. It all comes down to the right individuals, and give out free NFTs to that initial group of supporters who they have a long-term mindset. Now they don't have the panic of like, oh, I got to sell this before I lose more money. But it also has to be the right person who isn't going to sell it as soon as it's worth something. As soon as maybe you do a second round, maybe the OGs get free NFTs because they're supportive, they're there, they're contributing thoughts, and it's a small group. And I'm talking like not hundreds of people, maybe not even dozens of people, but just a handful of people in the beginning who are there, and they've got skill sets that they can contribute, assets, whatever else, and they're a part of the team. Like I'm specifically thinking of some of the people who are in some of the discords that I'm in, like the Holy Ones. There's people who aren't part of the team. Some of them weren't even there early on. But if I were to start it all over with those people and I was part of the Holy Ones, I would tie those people in some way, because like now I know like you are good people, you're community people, you are helping, with information and answering things and coming up with ideas and voting in the DAO, which is a big thing. Like in the Holy Ones, we have so many people who don't vote in the DAO, and we're having discussions on like, how do we incentivize that? Should we incentivize that? Should we give someone a treat for voting? Or is it just going to make them go in, click, 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 and vote blindly without reading anything? So it's
you
like,
have to really think through your incentives and what is the behavior you're incentivizing. Are you incentivizing them actually to do the action you want them to do, or is it something else?
like,
And so
but
that's one effect, right? Like if an incentive is just to get them to click something, well, you're not incentivizing them to actually do the behavior you want to encourage, which is stock
but
consideration participation.
the right person, and it's hard to figure out and identify who they are in advance. The right person, you and I know we would read through every single one of the proposals. We would think about it, we would discuss it before we just throw our vote in. So that's the kind of person you do want to incentivize, either with a free NFT, a POAP, whatever it is, first dibs on something, a whitelist, an OG list, or whatever else. But I think there is some value to that, to recognizing like, hey, your support, financial or otherwise, is appreciated in the beginning of this. I want to tie you to the ship and make you a pillar in this community as we build. I want to recognize that you have that value of either, even if you don't have, there's people who have no Web3 experience. They're not programmers, developers. They're completely new, but they're good community people. And they're the type of people who are sharing their notes with you in class. Like, oh yeah, here's the quadratic equation. Here's how I figured it out. It's like, all right, you're not the professor, but I appreciate that. That helped me.
I think what's useful too, and it's something that was baked into a lot of these early groups, and it just became a placeholder for whatever, just for status, are the actual roles within the community. Right? Yeah. You have the availability to assign a role to people that join. And I'm speaking specifically to Discord, right? So you have Discord, you get people that come in, see a project, they're interested in it, and they're sort of poking around, and they can start interacting and engaging, and you can assign them roles, kind of to your point, right? Like it can be a real role though. It could be, someone that talks about the latest developments in your specific niche, or like what's going on in Decentraland, or what's going on in the local Miami market, and who's doing what. Like you can have people that actually have real roles that bring real value. It ensures that they are engaged because you can see if they're doing it or not doing it. Like I don't want to call it a job, but it's sort of like a club title, I guess. Right? Like you have roles when you join clubs or societies, and you fulfill that role, and you can see if you are or aren't. Like there's really no negative if you don't, but at least you can see if they are participating the amount that they said they would to begin with. So like that feature's there, but it's just been bastardized, where it has just become this like level of, I don't know, order you joined, right? Or something like that. Or like the silly hoops that you jump through just to get people engaged. And so like it's just changed, and the way people perceive it and use it isn't the way it originally was. No, there is a way, like,
yeah, and I think this is going to be something for us to. It's going to be interesting because obviously, with our community project, we're going to want to be implementing something like this. So this is an interesting problem for us to solve. Maybe we'll hit a home run on our first, approach at building this community and these in identifying and rewarding these pillars. maybe we'll make that as part of the learning process. But I think it'll be interesting to kind of play with these things. That's what I love about business is I always look at business as marketing and business. It's like an economics little test lab where it's like, all right, like with my previous business, the stuff that would like, it would cost me $12 to print a t-shirt, and I could offer a t-shirt, or I could offer you a $30, and I would play with it where it's like, okay, where's that break even where I have an equal amount of the response, and something that would cost me like $12 to print versus giving you $30 or $50, people would want the t-shirt instead of me giving you $30 or $50. For some reason, it's like, oh, but I have money, I have dollars, but that's interesting. But then there's other instances where like the percentage off versus the dollar amount for discounts and stuff like that. So playing around with, the carrot and the stick, not so much the stick, but more of the different types of carrots, is always an interesting, like I said, it's a little experiment. And I love statistics and economics and like just kind of play around with, so there's psychology involved and all sorts of other stuff. So
that reminds me of the old little behavioral economic experiment where, let's say you have a coffee mug and you ask someone what would they be willing to pay for that coffee mug.
Yeah.
And it's, let's say it's like $8. But then if you give them the coffee mug, you ask them what would they sell it for. And it's generally, a significant number. When I say significant, I mean statistically significant number higher than that number that they would pay for it. And it's just interesting. It translates to sort of your point, because there's things just outside of what the tangible dollar amount is. When you think someone acts rationally, the way an economist would look at it, they would value it the same way. But there are different drivers and different motivators and things that people value differently based on if it's tangible, if it's cash, or whatever the medium is. And I think going back to this like community thing and stuff like that, I am getting a sense that people are just disingenuous. And a lot of these projects are masquerading that they are trying to build a community and then launch a product, when in actuality, they just want to launch a product and then build a community to justify that product to help sell it and market it.
It's not necessarily a rug pull intention, but it's the same effect when it flops, because they just think like, oh, I'll come up with something clever, come up with a roadmap, and I don't have a real way to execute it, but I'll figure it out as I go, and enough people will just jump in on the hype, fund it, and we'll figure it out as we go. But like I said, it's not an intentional rug pull, but I don't know where the line blurs between, when do you start calling something a rug pull? Like when the team collects a bunch of money, like $90,000, like this one project that we were discussing, we're dancing around. I did the rough math, and based on their mint price, they brought in about 90 grand, and now they've abandoned their Discord, and it's left up to the mods. And I've been engaging, and I've been trying to offer constructive criticism and give them ideas. And I know you have too, but like the team just doesn't seem to care. And it's like, can we call it a rug pull? I mean, the team kind of shows up in the Discord just to like very, very thinly defend themselves. Oh, like, I'm not even going to say what the excuses are, because that'll help identify them. But it's like, okay, you answered one thing, but you didn't answer this. You're not responding to any of the suggestions. Can I call this a rug pull yet? Or do I have to wait till you abandon and shut down the Discord?
So I have a different perspective on that. And so just to lay the groundwork. Oh, and by the way, hey, everybody, this is John. I'm the one, if you're watching, with the black screen, and Casey's the one with the video. This is a cross-platform live stream. It's our first, what is it called? Twitter Spaces?
Space. I think I was wondering if it's singular or plural. I think it's singular. Just the one. Twitter Space.
Yeah. It could be plural, like the metaverse. We all have our own space.
But
this is my space. Well, my space.
When I started typing out like the invitation for it, the tweet is like, join us on our first Spaces, and I was like, I don't like that. Let me see if this is singular or plural. And it said there was some kind of verbiage that's like, write a description here and tell people about your space. So I was like, sweet, I'm using the singular.
So I think in the moment, whatever one you are in is a space, but it's one of many spaces. So the platform is Spaces, but the one that you have and launched individually is your space. So that makes sense. Anyways,
so this is our first one. And we're simulcast on YouTube Live as well, because we're so tech savvy. We we're from the future. Sonic past and everywhere.
We are from the future.
But this is the first time we're going live, which is
So what this is just a little jib jab actually that Casey and I do probably weekly, maybe a couple times a week. We'll just get on the horn and just sort of just talk shop, talk about what we're seeing, some of our ideas, usually just bounce ideas off each other. It may be something that makes it into the podcast, makes it to some of the things we're planning, or it may just be stuff that we're doing individually that we just want to talk to each other about, or just start observing or just want to get something off our chest. So this is one we figured we'd just broadcast it and also post it as a podcast.
And a lot of good, we have such good back and forth on our phone conversations that it's like, oh, we got to remember to bring this up in the podcast, and we never do. Most of the time, 80-90%.
So I'm actually on my phone. I'm hoping that's going to just make it feel a little more like a conversation today. You're actually presenting to the people.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, if I'm looking at a camera, I'm looking at myself in the camera, and then I'm thinking, I don't want to smile that way. I got to keep my hair up. I got the headphones on, sort of keep the cowlick down. I'm on my phone. I'm just vibing, man.
It's a different thing. And when I first got into starting my YouTube channel, my first YouTube channel back in 2019, I noticed that psychologically it's so weird the way different things affect you. Like when I'm live, it's way easier for me to just go. When I'm recording, I stop and do retakes. Man, it would take me so long because I know that I can.
Yeah, you're second guessing what you're doing. You're like, I could do that better. So in the back of your mind, you know that that's an option, that's a possibility. But
and then
when you don't have that option, you just have to roll.
Yeah, and when it's audio only, it's another thing. And when you're audio only live, it's another thing where it's like I feel like it's even a little bit more laid back and natural, because like you said, you don't have to worry about the camera or picking your nose or doing all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I'm rubbing all the hair off my dog right now because he's in crazy shed season. So I'm multitasking. But anyways, we digress. So going back to that project is one that I found out about through an Instagram ad. Okay. And it was basically like an ape knockoff, right? And so at the time I was like, oh wow, this looks really polished. These people seem to have their act together.
Cool concept. I like the concept of the tiers.
I like the art.
I like the art.
They have like 3 tiers. I think it's actually really crisp, really vibrant. It's lively. It's not sort of dark. I liked the way it was executed. And then I saw that they had what seemed like a robust marketing plan. They reached me on Instagram. Like, all right, man, they have some funding. They're into this. They're actually putting in some effort outside of just flat spamming people in Discord. This could have legs.
TikTokers.
Yeah, I think this could have legs. So I pop into the Discord, start talking to some of the community. It's sort of that textbook, engage, involve, build up your tier status, and then you can get the whitelist and get an OG and all these sort of things. Yeah. So they had it gamified, right? And no one was super spammy with it. They had a set of mods. They had a development team that were German, which doesn't matter, but I think it's important to keep that context because there is a lot of social norms that are a bit different on like what community means and how you engage, also in how things can come across a bit differently or more harsh, especially when it's translated to maybe a second language.
Yeah.
And so the team's primarily German, but it's a US project, and I think they moved to Miami, or at least half of them. And so their mods, though, were like really international. I think their mods were like India, Malaysia, and stuff like that. And they have one, I don't know if he's on the team or a head mod, but he's like a firefighter that lives in Durham. And so he's a cool guy. And so they were fairly engaged, but the direct team, not as much. So they end up doxing, but it wasn't even a real dox. We talked about this in a previous episode. Yeah. They sort of just put out the real first names, allegedly, a photo, and a generic description of their professional experiences, which was something like, I've been in marketing for 10 years, and I was, first a product manager, and then became a marketing director, and I'm a VP of a firm that handles $100 million in annual revenue, and I've had clients such as Levi Strauss and Adobe, something like that. So still fairly specific, but not specific enough that you can verify it. Like you can't go to LinkedIn and type in brand manager that had a client as Levi.
Yeah.
So that was the extent of their doxing, which, all right, fair enough. This project didn't have like a long roadmap. I don't think it had any roadmap. the idea really was that it was going to be a speculative play, that they were going to draw people in with this
We look like
zeitgeist of,
apes. Look, it looks like
yeah,
bored apes.
exactly. And so, like, I guess shame on me for falling on that hype, thinking that their just marketing was going to move this on. This was my first foray into something early on and seeing if just a speculative play would work out. And as the project went on, they started really losing their touch, I guess. Like it seemed like they were on top of things, but then they kind of stopped marketing. So I don't know if they just sort of blew their marketing budget early on, if they had someone that like said, you know, I'll invest and we'll get this thing moving real fast, and you know, I know how to make this dollar go far, and they just blew it on that Instagram ad to begin with. Then once the mint time rolled around, they minted like 10% of their total mint, which was a disaster. And you know, the community there was for the most part engaged and excited about it. It was mostly the whitelisters that minted. The public mint was a flop, and the creators just sort of stopped posting. But in fairness, they never really posted to begin with. It was the moderator and then that one firefighter head moderator guy. So like that wasn't that unusual. What was unusual was, to your point, I think their response to people's feedback and criticism, because this was intended to be like a takeoff project. Obviously, there wasn't a lot of people invested in the long-term success of it because there was no long-term value. There's no true believers because there's nothing to believe. The only thing you have to believe is that there's a quick demand for this thing, and that didn't exist. So these creators, I think, got really agitated early on that you had a lot of people jumping ship, which, like Blake was saying, is understandable if you have a true roadmap and you want people to hold on for the ride. But if there's no ride, what are you holding on for?
Yeah.
And so that happened. And this was, I think, just a folly of first time creators in this space not really knowing what they're doing. I think they thought that it would just sort of catch on and the community would take over and it would just be this self-powered mechanism that would feed itself once they primed the pump. They just didn't have any reason to create that inertia on it. And so where they're at right now is this thing never took off. And you are in there. I kind of accidentally brought you into this because I was just describing the situation to you over the last couple of weeks. And you got interested because I had a little bit of momentum talking them into some favorable changes. But you've jumped in and you're like, you know, giving them practical advice. You're like, you know, what if we change this to a DAO, or what if we create a little more utility, and you gave some more of an incentive for people to get involved. And I think it's just not something that they want to do.
No.
They had the original plan for it. It failed, and you know they don't want to abandon it. But I don't think they ever wanted to do anything with utility. I don't think they ever wanted to do anything that they had to follow on and do this like long-term commitment to it. And so like where they're at right now is they're just as engaged as they really ever were. But the only way that they can maintain this thing is if they show that they have a plan, and they're not. And so that's why it looks bad. So that's why I don't think it's a rug pull. I think it's just some people that planned something. It didn't go their way.
They thought it was going to they thought it was going to be easier than it was. They probably don't have any experience. I mean, I don't know what their real world chops are, but, and no offense to people who have never started a business, but it's not like, you know, Tim Ferriss and Gary Vee and everybody like paint. It's not this like glorified thing. Like people think like the grinding part is like just it's like an optional thing. And it like, there's going to be like this, I don't know, this energy that you have. It's something you have to dig deep in, and you have to be passionate about it, because if it's not something you believe in, that grinding, that like all night kind of stuff that has to get done, that is completely necessary, it's not going to get done. Like people who don't have that kind of endurance, and they haven't been part of a project that fails before because they've always worked for somebody who had an existing project, or that person was the visionary who knew how to bring things to fruition. When it's on your shoulders and it gets hard and you want to throw in the towel because the people in Discord are starting to be critical, you know, like, and their answer is the mods and the owners are basically saying, well, the community's not supporting us. Basically a veiled, like, you guys should be buying more of our, buy up the floor, guys, give us more of your money, or share our post. Like the most annoying thing about that Discord is they've got this bot that is like, I don't know if it's a bot, but it's so regularly like finding, it can't be a bot, but it
No,
must be
it's
a
a person. You're
person.
talking about probably Twitter rate. Twitter rate.
Dude, the Twitter rates, like, dude, shut the fuck up about the Twitter rates.
Yeah.
It's constantly finding anybody on Twitter saying anything about an NFT project, and they're like, guys, let's rate it. Let's hit all the comments and post about how great this project is. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like,
That's just a failed.
shit
That's
the
just a
bed.
failed marketing strategy. So that's them thinking that that is how you succeeded it because I guess at some point they saw something that succeeded and it did that, which doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean that's what driven it. But I think a big thing, and you've just kind of alluded to this, you're coming at this angle that these people aren't realizing that starting a business is so hard. I think the actual problem is they didn't realize they were starting a business.
Yeah.
I think they saw this, and this is kind of to my earlier point. The way a lot of these projects originally started was a community came together, and then from that, value was created. And so they see that and they think, oh, okay, great. When you start this, it's a community thing. So I can just start it, and then like the community will help it rise to the top.
Yeah.
But they came with the end goal in mind and just thought the community was going to rise out of it.
Yeah, they're
So
like, we're not making a business, we're making a money printing machine. It's going to be easy. We're going to have some Fiverr artist bang out a bunch of apes that look like a very popular and successful project. And people are going to jump on because these apes are popping off, and like we'll figure out the rest as we go.
So they try to orchestrate a community around a financial objective, which may work, but it's just not what they were doing. They actually today, and this is kind of my point, it's a business. Like you are starting a business, and then you're trying to get a community behind it. It's no different than a product market fit, right? This is the classic startup product market fit. You come up with an idea, you put it out there, you test it, and you see if you actually have true product market fit, if there is enough of a demand to meet what you are creating and what you're trying to do. That's the community. And so that's what people are doing now. That's why you have the utility and all these in real life experiences. It's just a experience-based business now. It's kind of like it's just customer service. Like that's kind of the business.
Yeah.
Right? Like if these are like, what do you do? Well, I have customer service. For what? Well, for the customer service. It's like, okay, but like, what are you servicing? What are they buying? They're buying the customer service.
No, now there's
these projects have become.
And there's legit, like out of the Web3 space, especially because of the need for like the dependency, specifically for NFTs, the dependency on a community is so apparent and crucial that you're having people who are like the legit roles are community managers. Like they're people who are just really good at being active on Discord, and I'm sure some of these guys are making six figures.
Oh, easy. I would think that would be like the minimum.
Because it is a lot of work. It's not simple. You have to be very knowledgeable. There's always like a new bot that you have to learn to put in and add and this and that. And there's a lot of critical people. And it's like, it's not like support tickets. It's not like an email of a pissed off customer. They're in a forum with everybody else you're trying to keep on the ship or get money from. So you have to handle it the right way. And like, it's a 24/7 game because this is like, it's global. So the community managers, like hats off to them, the ones who are doing it right. But like, who would have thought, a few years ago, it's like, oh yeah, what do you do for a living? How'd you get that Ferrari? It's like, oh, I hang out on Discord all day and it's not even my project. I'm just really good at talking to people on chat and Discord and playing dank meme games and like it's.
But even outside of just like supporting the conversation and stuff like that and facilitating discussions and everything, I think even these projects, like an airdrop. An airdrop is a thank you to your customers, essentially, right? Like that's just good customer service. That's just good client management. But that's what these roadmaps are, right? Like a roadmap is like, oh, in 6 months, we're going to send everybody a ticket to our Decentraland world. And then in 12 months, everyone's going to get an in real life experience at this guy in Miami to celebrate our success. Like, those are what you do to keep customers happy in a normal previous brick and mortar business or, Web2 business.
Yeah.
But that's now become the business of these things.
It's a relationship. It's not a transaction. Like you have to keep these people on board. Otherwise, they're not buying a pizza from you and then going home and be like, oh, that was a shitty pizza. Like, I'm not going to buy pizza from them again. No, they're buying an asset from you in a community of other people who are buying that asset or NFT or whatever you want to call it, security, whatever it is, they're buying that thing, and then they could turn around and sell it and like ruin the value of those future things being sold. Or they can get in that Discord and spread poison and all this other stuff while even if you're working your ass off night and day trying to bring this to fruition. And I understand how frustrating that probably is for these people who, for all we know, they're behind the scenes killing themselves trying to bring this to fruition, and everyone's just getting impatient in the Discord. But that's what's going to identify, that's what's going to carve out the survivors, is the ones who are able to sit there and work. And if they're not doing it, they've got someone else to turn around and thank everybody who's on the ship rowing. Even though that like you're probably feeling like you're doing most of the rowing, these people just bought an NFT for you. Like how, and now all of a sudden they feel so like you're indebted to them. They feel so deserving and owed like your explanations and your attentiveness on Discord to answer every stupid little question that you have. I get it. But that's what's going to differentiate the really successful projects from the ones that had everything else right. You don't have that community manager there, or you don't have the ability to stay engaged and thank people and do airdrops and like keep people patient and on board while you're trying to work on the results that you can deliver them. It doesn't matter. You could be the best coder, best team, best marketer, everything else. You lose that Discord. Anybody you're marketing to get into that Discord is now going to see a poisoned well and be like, I'm out. This is a fucking toxic environment.
Yeah, especially if it's the public channel. And I think a big problem there is that they designed it, talking specifically about project, they designed it as a business, right? Like they sold something and then the team kept the profits. There was no community element to it, which is where you see this community involvement actually step in and take charge and take a sense of ownership, because they have the incentives, going back to our incentive structure earlier in this conversation, right? So like you said with the project that you really like, the Holy Ones, there's a DAO element. The DAO element, what that does is it feeds a lot of the product of the initial sales and the success of the project back to the community members. Mm-hmm. So now it is a community project. Now you have a community that has a vested interest in the success of it, so they can run with it. But when you sell something to somebody, like now it's yours. You have a business that you set up, and you have an obligation to respond to your customers and clients accordingly in a courteous, respectful manner. If the product you sold is a ticket to your club, which is kind of what these NFTs are, that one especially, then you have to give them a damn good product. And so that means you got to make that club really cool, and you have to be accountable. You have to tell them what's going on. And if you don't, well, you have to expect the repercussions. Like people are going to shit on you. People are going to think it's garbage. People are going to think that you're not giving them a good product because they paid for that access to you. Apparently, unless you told them otherwise. And if there is otherwise, just be clear in it. And I think that's one of my biggest complaints with that project, is that they aren't clear in their communication. They just have these like assumptions, and they're not assumptions that everyone agrees with. Not everyone has the same assumptions, but they still base what they say and do off those assumptions. Anyone can have assumptions as long as you're clear. If you put out there, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, and you don't have to have it all ahead of time. Once you figure out something new, go ahead and post it to everybody. Good projects, good leaders are doing that. Good community managers are doing that. They're public, they're constantly communicating, and they're making sure that if they think of something, they get it out there. If someone asks them something and they didn't think of it ahead of time, not a problem. Come up with a solution or an answer at the very least and get it out there for everyone. And that's just not what they're doing. That was my advice to them. I told them to, one, shut down the mint temporarily, just sit with a limited supply, which they did, but they didn't listen to the rest of my advice. The rest of my advice was then be very clear, say what you're doing, what your goal is, how you're going to achieve that goal, and then what the next steps look like. My suggestion was to say, once the floor price reaches a certain number, then you're going to reopen the mint for a limited number of existing holders and potentially waitlist individuals that are interested. And that price is going to be a set price. And say what that price is, say how much you're going to release, and say when it's going to happen. Be very clear on the steps that you're looking to do, because that's what people want, is certainty. They want to know what's going on. That's how you're going to drive value. And they just didn't do that. They didn't follow through on it. And then they just sort of blindly say, oh, well, we listened to some of the stuff. So they're just not good. I don't, this is why my opinion is that they're just not good at what they're doing. Yeah. I don't think there's anything nefarious. I think it's a mix of their intentions going into it, mixed with some cultural elements, mixed that they just weren't good at doing this to begin with. They just sort of, overestimated their abilities,
Yeah.
and they thought it would be easy.
Yeah.
It's
And
it's,
and
it's
and
that.
when you hear these stories of like, this 12-year-old made $3 million selling like whale drawings, you're like, oh, get out of my way. I got this. I'm gonna go get a Lambo. So it's, but for all those, for each of those stories, you've got to imagine that there's 100 career developers who came up with a really good project, a really good idea, and then they didn't Lambo moon, hockey stick, whatever. One thing I do want to segue into abruptly is our what we were discussing the other day. We didn't get on the phone about this, I don't think, did we?
Was
But
this a
about
Discord? Is this text? I don't know what you're talking about.
the our desire to come up with some kind of a project that rewards the people who are sticking through these other projects, these diamond hand holders, where even though it looks like everyone's jumping ship and the walls are coming in on them, there are some people, because as we were mentioning before, those are the type of people that you want to have in your community. So
Yeah.
I like our idea of making another community as an ancillary benefit where we could find these other projects who are in that space where it's like, we had a good roadmap, we got good hype, but now people are realizing that it's going to be a big gap between today and when we can actually, come full circle and bring something to fruition. Rewarding those people who are supporting those communities, holding up the floor, because even when the floor is going down, it could always be worse if you didn't have those diamond-handed people. And I would love to have those people in our community when we build them. So I think it would be good, because for those projects, they're probably looking for someone who's willing to work with them and give, help identify and reward their diamond handed holders. And like I said, I think we've got some ideas. I've got some that are maybe a little bit more hard, but
Ambitious. Yeah.
yeah, a little bit more vicious, but I'll keep it tame to start off with at least.
Oh, I
But
said ambitious, but yeah, vicious works too.
oh, vicious. Yeah. Yeah.
Vicious.
No, I've got some vicious ideas too, but I don't know. I think that'd be an interesting concept. And for those of you who maybe I brushed through it, actually, John, you heard what I said, so explain it better if you think I skipped over, fast forwarded through some stuff.
So the original genesis for the idea came actually from that project we were just talking about,
Yeah,
as a way just to acknowledge, essentially take the role of what the creators were supposed to be doing. And
because there are
help.
people in there who are like, guys, give them
They're good
time,
people.
and it's like I respect that. Like I feel like we're entitled to an answer right now, better than, well, the community should buy more. But I do respect that you're in here. You're not a mod. You're not a team member, and you're holding it out.
Yeah, exactly. So there's some good people involved in a lot of these projects. But what I was saying before, that really their role is to be supporting their customers, their clients, engage them, support them, acknowledge them. And that project in particular feels like you just kind of have to do it for them. And so
Yeah,
the original idea was send out a little thank you, essentially, to all the holders. When something's tough, give them a little reminder. Say why you appreciate them, what's the benefits maybe to come, and just tell them, I appreciate you. And so I just wanted to go out, and you and me, as people involved in this, just say, hey, like, we're outside people, but we just want to say we acknowledge you as someone in this space holding something when it's tough.
yeah.
Someone should acknowledge that, whatever the project is. So I wanted to send a little airdrop NFT or a POAP that just said, hey, you're a diamond hand holder for this project. And Casey and John at WTF is Web3. We appreciate you. And that
Successful
spawned,
projects wouldn't make it without people like you. Whether or not this project is going to be
it should be a
successful or
badge.
not, it couldn't do it without you.
It should be a badge. Like, this is the equivalent of an OG that held on.
Yeah.
And regardless of the project, that should be acknowledged. It should be rewarded. And so you and I started thinking, this is something that could have legs, because we should be rewarding this kind of behavior. We should be acknowledging it. And there should be a way for people to show off that they have that aspect, that they held on to something. They're not a front runner. They're not there just with the biggest project. They're actually holding on when the time's tough. And that's a true diamond hand. And so what would be excellent would be to celebrate that in and of itself, we have a way to acknowledge people that hold on to projects and they stay with it and they see it through, even when it's not obvious it's going to be a success. So acknowledging them, giving them a currency or a badge or some sort of way to show off that they are doing that, especially if it's in multiple projects. It would be even better if we can identify the quantity that people are involved in such projects and holding on, and give them a community in of themselves. Make
Yeah.
that a group of people that can bond together, that can identify with each other, and that can show and share some of the tips and how they're working with their community, the communities they're involved in, and maybe share some of the tips that their creators for those communities have found that was successful. They can bring that in because these are intended to be communities that you have a voice, that you can jump in and you can say you have concerns or you have suggestions. And so the more like-minded people with similar situations that you can bounce those ideas off of and see what worked and what didn't, I think that's beneficial. But it goes back to the beginning of where I went with this, like this good nature, this community aspect, the focus on being positive with this. I think it's a good way to bring back that for the people that were just chasing a quick buck and show them, no, like diamond hands, it doesn't just mean like a meme thing that you're just losing money, or you don't want to take the quick profits because you want long-term profits. Diamond hands means you're holding on even when times are tough. That's what it really is.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to have if this is something that interests you and you want to be involved in it, definitely join our Discord, because I already see us needing not only other people who are going to be involved and maybe point us in the direction of other projects that we should probably turn our attention to, and maybe offer those community members, those diamond-handed holders in those communities. And it might be a project that you're in and you're just like, man, I believe in this thing. I'm not ready to sell, but man, it is rough, and our Discord could use a little bit of a pep. So join our Discord and be part of that conversation for suggestions on what other things we can do to incentivize, reward, and acknowledge these people. And then also, this will just be, this is just going to be the first of this effort as it unfolds, and we'll be using your ideas as far as, building this roadmap for this little project. It could mature into who knows what. And this will be the identifier where it's like, okay, these people have the diamond-handed NFT that we sent out to everybody. And now we've got this other idea a month or two down the road. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to, put you on a whitelist for this, or now we're going to give you, alpha on, certain projects, or, whatever other incentives. It could actually end up being its own little community. And I like that it's a community around, because having something in common is what really makes these communities ironclad. Like the Holy Ones, we all have a very similar sense of humor, and it's based on the art. It's some deities. You got Vishnu, Jesus, Moses, and Buddha, but some of them are like offensive. So you don't have uptight, conservative, super religious people in there. You've got great people, very nice, but we also that kind of artwork kind of filters out people who don't have our kind of sense of humor and don't appreciate those jokes. So that's what's cool, is we're around that. The Bored Apes, they kind of have their own.
You had me with Jesus. You lost me with the offensive.
Yeah, exactly. So like we've got some friends, Kazoo, one of our friends from high school, he would not be interested in this project whatsoever. Great guy, but we got to find another little Venn diagram set up to find a community for Kazoo. But us all commiserating on the fact that, and sharing, it would be good for information on not only maybe like, hey, this project sucked 6 months ago when I originally joined, whatever we want to call this thing. Let's call it the Diamond-Handed Holders Club or something. I joined the Diamond-Handed Holders Club through the WTF podcast. And now 6 months down the road, I got some intel, shared it with the team, and we actually turned it around. And now we're back above mint price. So it was actually good. Or we'll also learn, being a part of that community, you can learn like, here's some hazard signs. Here's some red flags that I experienced before this rug pull happened. And it'll help people avoid stuff, help people turn stuff around. But, and then like I said,
a lot of the best lessons come from failure.
Right? Oh, 100%.
So you're involved in failure, or you observe it, you know what to stay away from, what the warning signs are. So that's a great point. Another thing that I'm just thinking about here is, if we are developing a community that one finds verifies and acknowledges those that have some of the most sought after behaviors in the space, which is people that are in a project and they're in a project for the right reasons and they stay with that project. That is what a lot of people want to know, right? So if we can create this community that acknowledges them, we show that they have done so, that they are actually true diamond hands, and maybe have done it more than once. Maybe they do it quite a bit, and we can identify how frequent they are as diamond hand holders. I would imagine that would be something that would be useful information for a lot of projects, because that is exactly the type of people that projects want.
I'm
And I
against.
can imagine that would be not selling, but that would be a project that I could see a lot of projects interested in airdrop or getting on the whitelist early.
100%. And I was about to say, like, I'm against participation trophies. I don't think everybody deserves a trophy. I think you deserve a trophy if you're among the best and you try really hard and you succeed. Failure is part of that. You don't make it to the podium without a bunch of failures in getting the grit and character strength to get through that stuff. But I also would say that while a participation trophy might not be something I would sign off on, I would sign off on maybe like I lost every single game, but I made every single practice. I made every single game. I played until the whistle. That person deserves a trophy, probably even more so than the people who are getting rewarded for their success. So this is kind of like that. This is like the resilient loser trophy. So
Oh
I
man,
think we
I don't
should
even
acknowledge.
I don't even see it as that. I don't even see it as a participation trophy. If
No,
anything,
no.
I
This
see
is
it as
this is acknowledging you didn't just participate. You participated when it was like dismal. You stayed in it. You hit those practices. You weren't the MVP. You weren't like the league champs. You stayed in it when like you just showed up to every game and just got your teeth kicked in by the other teams. But you stayed with it. Rain or shine, that's the dedication we
yeah.
need.
To me, it's tough to even say it's something like that because this is individual versus like the overall effect. Because like you as a holder, like you just because it failed doesn't mean you were an MVP. You still probably you are the MVP because you held on to it.
Yeah.
So kind of where I'm saying that this could be valuable is if you are a true believer in something and you have seen that through, that in of itself is a skill. That in of itself is experience. That
And
in of itself is showing that you are someone better at this than other people are. So like that is in and of itself something that should be celebrated and acknowledged. A participation trophy is when someone just goes to a Discord and they're one of the first 1,000 people there.
yes.
Whoop-de-doo. Why are you getting rewarded?
Yeah.
Because you clicked on the link first. You have shown that you may have other value, but that does not distinguish you from anyone else. You just got a participation trophy because you showed up. Good for
I'm
you.
excited because I think we presented a problem earlier on because we were like, these are the kind of community members we want to have, but like, how do we identify them? We just solved
This
the
is a way to
problem.
identify them. Yeah.
Thinking out loud or
So
learning out loud.
this is
What'd you call it? Learning out loud?
learning out loud.
There
So
we
also
go.
what our Discord is, guys, is this. So it's just a continuation of this learning out loud, getting ideas out there, sort of bouncing them off each other. So if you join our Discord, you'll be a part of this conversation, and this conversation just keeps going. I think earlier I even talked about some of these in real life community benefits. I'm like, it would be really cool to do a challenge coin, right? Like if you have a project, just send everyone that holds it a challenge coin that has the likeness of that NFT, specialized individual one as a surprise, stuff like that.
Well,
Send
it's not a
in real
surprise
life
now.
prints. Well, we're not gonna do it. Just
Okay.
putting ideas out in the ether.
Yeah, you do it. You let us know, and we'll join it. But what you were saying before about other projects wanting to airdrop these people, this kind of a community that's identified, I 100% sign up with that because that's the whole reason staking is a thing. People need that consistency, the stability, and staking in crypto. You could even stake T's, but the value is like, okay, we need to coax people into not selling. Well, if we've already identified you as someone who's like diamond handed through rain or shine, I would want to airdrop you, my tokens. I want you in my community.
At the very least, I would want that group of people to be on my whitelist. I would want that group of people to be the first to get something because those are the ones that have the most that have shown the indicators to lend me to believe that they're the most likely to see this vision for what it is and see it through and be patient with it.
And hold
Those
up
are the
the
people I
floor.
want in my community.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I see tremendous value in identifying this community. One, the value from just being able to share amongst each other's experiences. Two, the value in identifying and rewarding that behavior, because I think it's just good for the space, right? I think it's good to encourage that. And three, tremendous value because I'd be valuable to other projects. And so
Yeah.
there's a good opportunity then to show other projects that you have this, you have proof now that you are the type of people they're interested in, and you can potentially get in a little earlier for them. Maybe
I
get
think
a little Vic.
I think we just found our first project to bring to the community. I like this one.
I like it.
I
I
can
it.
get behind
Value
this.
add too.
Yeah.
This is sort of the ethos of what we are here, right? This is why we have this WTF as Web3. Just learning, growing, helping.
This will be
like
good.
It,
We'll bring it into the Discord. We invite you guys to join us there. But I think some of the next steps are going to be maybe identifying some other projects. But we've already got a good one. We can maybe approach the team and see if they're interested in it. Otherwise, we can just explore the blockchain, see who the current holders are, identify them that way, and do a drop. Now we got to discuss what chain we're going to do this on. You want to do Polygon, Solana?
Yeah,
I like Poly. Polygon's good because I'm a big fan of Decentraland, Polygon, Mana, Decentraland. It's already there. It's a little bit more frictiony. It's a little bit more frictiony because you got to get off to ETH. But baby, those gas fees, bye. Just those gas fees.
That's another conversation. Let's have that conversation for another day. I think we're out to time for this. A little longer than we thought. But good talk, man.
Good talk, man. Love you. Tell Nicole and Drago I said hi, and we'll catch up later.
Say hi to Ami. And everyone listening, thanks for holding on. If you just popped in and out, we appreciate you too. If you're listening live, thank you. Love you. And if you're listening async, love you too.
Bye.